You are listening to the Doc Malik podcast. This show is 100% independent and fully funded by listeners like yourself. So, if you wish to support Ahmed in all that he is doing, then please subscribe to his channel on Spotify or his Substack. Or simply buy him a coffee with a one-off donation, links to which can be found at docmalik.com. Now, let's get on with the show.
Already record?
I'm recording now. Yeah. I was saying it's really nice to see your beautiful face.
Thank you, and likewise, of course. Your face is much more beautiful than mine. You are quite a few years younger than me, my friend.
It's just a little bit. I don't think so. How old are you?
64.
Well, just a little bit. I'm a tiny bit younger than you. I turned 50 this year.
Yes, people usually say I'm looking 1 year younger than I am.
I don't. That's insulting. I think you look in your early 50s.
Okay. Thanks.
Not 1 year, 1 decade. You look 1 decade younger.
Well, having some hair is an advantage, of course.
Also, living a life that is authentic and true helps.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You must be happy, and first and foremost happy with yourself.
Anyway, so I was looking at when you were last on the podcast. You were my 49th guest, and it was a huge honor to have you on the show because you are one of the unsung heroes of that COVID era. I mean, for those people who don't know, you are a Swiss cardiologist. You spoke out against the COVID pandemic and the jabs. And for doing so, you had armed police, a lot of them, come to your house, incarcerate you into a mental institution, force you to take psychiatric medication. I mean, the thing is as Orwellian and as nightmarish as you can get. But look at history and time. You are vindicated, and you have stood by your medical ethics and moral integrity. And unlike so many other people, not only did you see the pandemic BS, you've seen all the other lies and scams and hoaxes and fake terror events. For some reason, most people can't see this. You've done a really good job of being able to identify them all. How have you managed that?
Thank you for your very two kind words, Ahmad. I mean, well, I might be unsung, but not a hero, of course. I mean, I always state it has never been easier to become a hero than nowadays. You just have to stay the same person with the same character as before 2020, and then some people already call you a hero. I mean, this tells almost all about the current global insanity. Yeah, well, of course, I mean, I took the red pill some years earlier. I guess I saw the controlled demolition of World Trade Center 7. I was somewhat astonished, amazed. So I started to enter the rabbit hole, and yeah, I mean, once you have realized that we were lied to about 9/11 and JFK assassination, then you go into the other narratives, and you realize that all huge narratives that are created to change the course of history usually are wrong, and they are wrong until proven otherwise. And knowing this, of course, was an advantage in 2020 when this COVID pandemic arrived. And the other thing, of course, was when such a so-called pandemic comes around, you must remember the last so-called pandemic, and that was the swine flu pandemic in 2009, where the H1N1 virus also was less dangerous than the seasonal flu. I mean, it was exactly the same story, and I was amazed that not everybody, at least all doctors, instantly realized that this whole COVID narrative is utter nonsense, from like no epidemiologically relevant asymptomatic transmission to said like zero COVID is utter nonsense.
So, absolutely. And I think you're 100% right that basically if you were awake because of 9/11 and started going down and realizing so many things are lies. We've been told so many lies. So almost everything in history is a lie, basically. In the sense that
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that events didn't happen, but for example, the reason why the events happened, or who were the good guys and who were the bad guys, and little details, fine details that actually shift the whole perspective of things, those are inaccurate. And then there are also the lies of omission, where they do not tell you really important, pertinent facts. So for example, let me give you an example. If we have a picture and I zoom in and take, for example, this book, if I zoom in and just show you literally just one small fragment, it's not a lie. It's not that I'm not, what I'm showing you isn't true, but I'm not showing you the rest. I'm not giving you context. I'm not making you understand the intricacies and details of everything. And then I put a layer of artificial narrative on top, and then you swallow it and you think, okay, yeah, this must be the truth. And so much of what we've been taught, not just in the last century, but the century before that, the century before that, it's a load of garbage.
I fully agree. I think almost the whole history of mankind is made up. I guess you are right. Once you have realized that all important current global narratives are lies, then of course you must think about what was reported to us earlier about past centuries, millenniums, etc. Yeah, highly likely almost everything was a lie. I mean, it's somewhat hard to realize this. I mean, we grow up in a society, we get our ideology, and this is nice to live in this ideology. This is a comfort zone. We know we are the good guys, the others are the bad guys. And suddenly to realize that, for example, we Westerners usually were not the good guys, but rather the bad guys. And then all this hurts. This hurts. First, you all rock bottom, but then with the time, I think it's really liberating you. And currently, we are flying above the fog in the sunlight. It's a completely different life.
Yeah.
Everything has changed.
Oh man, tell me, everything has definitely changed. And you're right. So if we accept that everything we're taught right now and being told by mainstream narrative and by the government and the politicians is a lie, then by default you go back in time and think, well, what else have they lied about? And then actually you can turn that and look forward and think, well, we know they're going to lie again. We know tomorrow they're going to continue lying to us. Like, there's no reason why suddenly tomorrow these same criminal global mafia are suddenly going to become, honest and tell us the truth. So I think the lesson is, do not trust authority. And I think for a lot of people, particularly religious people who are brought up as Muslims and Christians, that you're taught, trust in authority, trust in God-given authority and their rulers. And no, folks. I hate to tell you this, do not trust authority, whether it's your church, the imam, the government, do not trust them. Even the medical authority.
Do not trust even in yourself. I mean, be always critical, first and foremost about yourself. This is very important. If you tell trust me, trust in authority, then obviously you have no arguments, because if you have good arguments, they need not have our trust. They can convince us with arguments, but obviously they have no arguments. They come up with expressions like trust the science. I am the science. Anthony Fauci, for example. I am the science. Oh my God. Yeah. I like the allegory of Plato's cave.
Plato's cave.
I think
tell me.
Me, you, the whole humanity, or most people lived in a kind of Plato's cave. Of course, nowadays it's a flat screen on the wall, not the shadow of the symbols that we see on the wall. There's a huge flat screen where the legacy media projects virtual realities about almost everything. And we think this is the reality, and we do not realize that behind us there is a way out of this cave into the sunlight. And once we have gotten out of the cave, I think most of us think, we have the duty to go back from time to time and tell the guys there, hey, well, there is an exit and there is the sunlight outside. And this, for example, are doing you. I mean, your podcast is such a thing, and I'm really honored, Ahmad, that I can be that you have invited me, and even for a second time, to your famous podcast.
Oh, God
Because
bless you.
you do this, you have realized it is your duty to enlighten the people who are still in Plato's cave. Well, I mean, hubris is not a good idea. I don't think we are in the sunlight. Maybe we are in the higher level Plato's cave. Maybe there are many caves. I mean, we should not believe never believe that we know everything. Of course, I know that I do not know is one of the best phrases. Socrates was a genius, or maybe Plato was a genius. Maybe he invented Socrates. I'm not absolutely sure whether Socrates lived. Maybe he was an invention by Plato, so that Plato could let Socrates tell things that the authorities didn't like, so that they did not go after him. I don't know. It's possible.
Okay. Well, I'm going to come to that in a second. So I agree with you about not having the hubris that we criticize other people of having. And that's why I never say I'm awake. I'm saying, we're all awakening. There's still so much to learn. And there's only one thing I'm 100% sure of. And that is, I don't know anything. Like, I honestly don't know anything. And I need to question everything. And I can't trust authority. Those are the things that I know for absolute certainty. And when people say, absolutes, I get really worried and concerned, because I'm just like, well, you need to be careful, because that's when you start getting captured ideologically. You need to keep an open mind. You can have an opinion, but be flexible with that opinion, and be prepared to change your opinion, and be prepared to say, I got it wrong. I didn't have all the full facts, or I made the wrong assumptions, even with the full facts, and say, I'm sorry as well. And these things people struggle with. People struggle with saying, I didn't know. I don't know. I got it wrong. I'm sorry. For some reason, these things that I've just said to you, people really struggle with it. And I think I saw this video of Mark Passio, and he said that is the root of Satan, satanic. If people cannot admit that they got it wrong, and they were, and they're sorry, they are captured by Satan. And I think that's actually very true. So yeah, but I want to quickly tell you something. I had a podcast with Rurik Skywalker, and he's a Russian or a Slavic dissident writer on Substack, and we talked about Plato on our podcast. And he's not a good guy. He is the mastermind of technocracy and totalitarianism. And when the podcast comes out, you'll see that man was all about technocracy, the experts ruling and everybody else being in their place. And he was inspired by the Spartans, and it was all very much like communal eating, communal food, no private property. The ruling elite will make all the decisions. Everyone else is allocated their jobs and their food and whether they can breed or not. It was eugenics was very high up in it. So suddenly I got a very different opinion of Plato. And actually, a lot of what we're seeing wrong in the world today is Platonic ideology. I don't know if you knew this or not.
Yeah, well, I was talking about Socrates more than Plato. Yeah, you are right, of course. I mean, he was an expert, and he advocated expertocracy, technocracy. I mean, but this per se, I think, is not a bad thing. I mean, nowadays, of course, it is, because the proponents of this are evil people. But I mean, if you are well educated, really an intellectual, and you behave well and you have good ideas, you may be a good leader. This per se, I think, is not the wrong thing. Like, I mean, we are often talking, well, capitalism is bad, communism is bad, National Socialism was bad, all those systems are bad. The problem is never the system. The problem is the people who form this system, who live in this system and form the system. And nowadays, obviously, these are almost 100% evil people, while in former times maybe there were only 50% or so. Some other guys, some good guys also had the saying. But if we go back to the Greek we must also realize that democracy, the so-called democracy, never existed, even not in Greece, because
Exactly.
there were the slaves, and then there were the bourgeoisie who had the saying. For them, there was some kind of democracy. And nowadays we realize we do not live in a democracy. Of course, we can go to the ballot box, but we go there disinformed. The same way like we gave disinformed, or many people gave disinformed consent to the jab. Nowadays, we give disinformed consent to politicians, to the whole government. I mean, if all the legacy media tell the same narratives and omit the truth, this cannot be a democracy. Democracy means that the populace must be well informed, the most objectively as possible, so that they can decide freely and really decide. This was the term democracy was mainly invented to delude the populace, so that they think I have the saying, while in reality we have not, of course. I mean, we are living in oligarchies or elite democracies, or however we want to call them, but it has never been a democracy. So all this blathering about democracy, the USA exporting democracy around the globe, it was exporting genocide around the globe.
Absolutely. That's the hypocrisy. They talk about spreading democracy to other parts of the world when there isn't even democracy here in the West. It's all fake. I did a little video today on Substack and Instagram talking about fake. I'm tired of fake stuff in my life. Everywhere I look, fake media, fake news, fake politicians, fake doctors, fake ass freedom fighters, fake ass alternative media, fake ass podcasters, fake ass saviors and messiahs, fake ass Christians and Muslims, fake ass Jews, fake ass money, fake ass education, fake ass everything. And it's like, where is authenticity? Where is the real stuff? And you know where it is, as far as I'm concerned? When I get outside in the woods and I go into nature, that's real. The trees, the flowers, the birds, like, and then the people that are close to me in my life, my friends that I can go and meet and touch and have coffee with and go for a walk with, they're the real people. Like, there's, especially in the social media digital world, everything seems fake.
I embrace you, my friend. Yes, I mean, we are living at the apex of the age of narcissism. That started, if you remember, this started. I was born in 1968, 1961. You some time later. I guess it started in the late 70s, 1970s. There was actually an article, a good article, a main article in the German magazine Der Spiegel about the age of narcissism that was starting and disappeared again about in 1979. I mean, a nice example is, for example, in Switzerland we have this famous mountain, the Matterhorn. It's looking like a pyramid. You certainly know it, near Zermatt. And I certainly did many hundred pics, took hundreds of photos of it during my whole life, but never ever I could have had the idea to place my head in front of it. And nowadays, everybody shoots a selfie with the Matterhorn. And I think this is important, that the Nazis, the severe malignant narcissists or psychopaths who rule, flourish, of course, in this age of narcissism. I guess this was created deliberately by them so that they have the best milieu to flourish. And it's absolutely true. We must, I'm calling for a return into the age of authenticity for years. This is exactly what we must do. We must meet authentic people, do not care about all those narcissists in politics and everywhere else. Just love them out of court and meet really good, authentic, empathetic people. And of course, spend a lot of time in the nature. It's wonderful in the nature. Go on the countryside. Also, the people on the countryside, they are much more rooted in reality than the people in the cities. We saw it, for example, with these masks in the cities. Everybody was wearing a mask during this pandemic. And as soon as you went on the countryside, you didn't see almost any mask.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I mean, it's, crazy things happen to me now. Synchronicity. So, my friend Marianne lives locally. She only lives about 10 minutes away. And she said, let's meet up. Let's have, and I said, why don't you come over for a coffee? And she went, should we go for a walk as well? I went, yeah. So we went for a walk in the woods, and 10 minutes into the walk, two women are walking opposite us towards us, and they've got a dog. And one of the women goes, Doc Malik. And one of the other women goes, Marianne. So one of them said Marianne, one of them said Doc Malik. And Marianne and I looked at each other. I was like, what? And the lady that said Doc Malik, I had met her in Wales 2 years ago at another doctor's weekend retreats, someone called Dr. Sarah Myhill. Amazing woman, hounded by the GMC. She's a free-thinking functional medicine doctor, a GP, awake. They're chasing her after COVID. She's being hounded by them. And so I went to her retreat 2 years ago, and I met this woman over there, and she's now in the woods. And I remember she said she lived in Scotland. And here she is in my area, in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, with her friend. And her friend knows my friend, Marianne. Her name's Nicola, by the way. And apparently this other lady is friends with Nicola, which is why she was visiting her. The other lady, Nicola, is also a subscriber to my show. We're chatting away. We said, why don't we just walk together now? So we ended up walking together. And then while we were walking, I bump into my neighbor. And I say to my neighbor, hey, I haven't seen you for like 5 months. Where have you been? And she was very nervous. And what's interesting is the lady that had been in the retreat in Wales, I remember her telling me she had a divorce. That's why she moved up to Scotland. And now I was asking her, how is it going? She was like, it was so painful. I almost killed myself, but now I'm the happiest I've ever been. And my neighbor suddenly, when I said, where have you been? I haven't seen you for it. She said, it's been the worst year of my life. After 30 years, my husband has left me. And that's why we're selling the house. And I've been so stressed and my life is upside down. And she started crying. And one of the women, the one that's living in Scotland, has been for the divorce. She started giving her a hug. She said, take my number. I'm going to help you. You're going to be fine. I'm going to support you. And then we were all hugging each other. And there was so much love. And then we were all swapping numbers. How random is that? That was real.
That's a conspiracy of the good. There is not only the conspiracy of evil, there is also the conspiracy of the good. Good people meet nowadays like never before in history. We have wonderful friends around the globe since then. We met, Ahmad. I didn't know you before 2020. Now we are great friends. We haven't met in yet, but of
One
course
day.
we must do this. One day we certainly will. Come skiing in Switzerland, or I will visit you near London.
Please.
Yeah. This is the good thing. One of the many good things in our times. Some of our friends just went away. Or I call it self-cleaning of my friends. And we got a lot, many real friends, good friends with empathy, who are not selfish, who really care about their friends, who know what a friend is, must be. I guess you and me, we never had more friends than nowadays. Some people, of course, still think I'm crazy. I mean, I'm a cardiologist. Fellow doctors who sent me patients before 2020 do no longer send me patients. But other patients, of course, are coming by themselves. And so I have no problem.
I love it. I 100% agree with all of that. I've never had so many friends. Someone recently asked me on Friday on Instagram, I always do ask me a question thing. Someone said, what's happened to all your friends, before COVID? And, what do they think of what's happened to you? And I said, what friends? Seriously, what friends? They're all gone. They aren't my friends anymore. And I have a completely new social circle, but my friends now are so much deeper and meaningful than what they were before. I look back now, they weren't friends at all. And it's funny, I don't do surgery anymore. I do these medical consultation type things, educational only, online. So I don't get any referrals or anything like that. But I don't hear from any other doctors. I'm only in touch with three orthopedic surgeons. Two of them from my old life who are good friends, who now are beginning to realize I was right. And, you know, one of them has just said to me, I wish I could do what you're doing. You look healthy, you're glowing, and I'm miserable. One of the friends I made after the COVID thing, his name is Ian McDermott. He's a knee surgeon. He's wide awake and I love him to bits. And he's one of my best friends. And one is an anesthetist, Karam. So I only know 4 doctors now. I used to know so many before. And all of those other doctors have just disappeared from my life. But I was on a march last Saturday, and it was really funny. I bumped into another orthopedic consultant surgeon, a hip surgeon that I knew from 20 years ago. And I knew him for a long time, but I haven't spoken to him in the last 5 years. And we just bumped into each other in the street. And he went, Dr. Malik, Ahmed Malik. And I was like, hey. And he said, you're doing amazing work. And I was like, great, I need to go. I'm late. Bye. But it's like, I don't know what they mean by you're doing amazing work. Like, why are you not doing amazing work? Why? I have all these people say to me, you're doing great. But then they quietly just stay quiet and get on with their job. Or they come up to me and whisper and say, I never had any shots either. And I'm like, okay, great. So why don't I ever hear you talking out loud? They're just quiet. They just stay quiet, put their head down. And it's a shame because I feel like if all these doctors at the time of the COVID pandemic had simply said, this is nonsense, we're not going to take part in this, even if it was just 2% or 3%, if they all spoke up, everything would have fallen apart. But the problem is, they're all cowards at the end of the day. I hate to say this, but they really are, you know. People need to grow a spine, especially doctors. I think the reason why I give the doctors a hard time, not just because they were my profession, but of all the people, they knew the medical ethics. They should have known better. That's why I'm a bit hard on them. Do you think that's reasonable?
Percent, of course. I mean, yeah, I can fully agree. Where all our fellow doctors. I mean, it was so simple. The narrative was such utter nonsense. I always state if you have 3 connected brain cells, you realize this, even as a lay person. It was such utter nonsense. This is the problem, of course. I mean, all doctors went with the narrative, and in my probably most famous video, it's about 8 minutes. I was talking also about the pandemic of cowards, as you mentioned. It was a pandemic of cowards. If enough doctors had enlightened, had informed the populace, some journalists in the legacy media had promoted them, this whole narrative would have collapsed within a week, of course. But yeah, most people are cowards, and they. I mean, I personally, I never thought, what are the people thinking about me? But most people think, what are all those friends and neighbors and so thinking about me? And I never cared about that. I mean, I know what I'm thinking about me, and I do what I think is right, and whatever other people think about me, I give a pardon shit. And I think this is a part of human nature to go with the masses, not to go in the other direction, and it needs some courage to do what you and me did, and some others did, but it were actually enough. I mean, a few doctors would be enough if they were promoted, if they were promoted by journalists. In the narrative information would also have spread out. But the journalists, of course, went with the narrative as well. It's incredible, but I guess we learned a lot about human nature as well during these years, especially about our fellow doctors. I mean, I always thought, well, the average doctor does not have a lot between his ears. If you are intelligent, of course, it helps you, but just by working hard, you can pass these exams. Later we see whether you are a good doctor or not. And I must say that most doctors totally failed in 2020 and the following years. So they should never ever have passed the final exam. That was the Lackmus test for a doctor, and most fellow doctors totally failed.
Yeah. And now, do any of your colleagues, former colleagues, ever admit, "Oh my goodness, you were right. Oh my goodness, what do we do?" Have you ever heard any of that?
The fellow doctors, not. Some people, for example, I was in the Rotary Club. I'm happy that they kicked me out now, but well, I was there. I was invited there when I opened my practice here in Switzerland. So yeah, I had to join them, and some of them or some other old friends come and apologize. Yes, well, you were right, and I should have supported you. But well, it's maybe half a dozen or a dozen, not more. Most people cannot admit this huge error. I mean, this was not a minor error, as you mentioned. They cannot admit this huge error. They went with this, and I mean, especially the doctor. I mean, doctors. I mean, imagine if we would have jabbed those people, patients, and would realize after 4 years, oh my God, I hurt my patients. I might even have killed patients. I mean, I would have been completely destroyed, both as a doctor and as a human. I could be suicidal, maybe. So they have, of course, to behave like the three apes, cover everything, not look at everything, not watch your podcast, no read my blogs, not do anything, no, just forget it. Try to forget it, read, and we will move on. We have other problems now. The next pandemic is coming.
So what are you passionate about right now? Because I see you on X and you've always got an opinion. And I like your opinions. You're always kind of spot on, to be honest. I've never seen any of your posts that I disagree with, which is quite incredible. Because I even disagree with myself from last week. But you seem to be on the money every single time. So what are the kind of things that you're passionate about right now, or you're just you're looking at the world and thinking, right, this is garbage?
Well, I must say I have become much less active than you, of course. I mean, I have my practice. I'm still working as a cardiologist. That's at least a 100% job, probably more. And I think, I mean, for 5 years, I told always the same thing again and again, from single sentences over single tweets to blogs to videos to interviews. You can watch this on my website. I don't have the time and energy to repeat it again and again and again, as long as we are invisible. As I am, you are visible, somewhat visible. In Twitter, I'm totally invisible. So I almost totally gave up Twitter. I have about 90,000 followers or so, but I'm almost invisible. And this is not. I don't waste my time and energy in Twitter. Twitter, of course, is also controlled by the same guys who control the legacy media. Many new media are controlled by them as well. Twitter, I mean, I stated years ago that Twitter is the master of fragmentation and decontextualization. It's what you already mentioned. We are bombarded with information bits, but they are fragmented and decontextualized. And what we have to do is to look for all these puzzles and solve the puzzle, put it together, and then suddenly we see the big picture. And Twitter, with these tweets, there is a tweet, and another one tweets about another thing, and this is complete garbage. I mean, there is no. I mean, when the tweets got longer, it got better. Then I became somewhat more active for some time because then you could explain the whole story maybe in 100 lines or something like this. But in a single tweet, it's difficult to explain something. And I mean, there is almost total shadow banning. The so-called master of free speech, Elon Musk, of course, is the master of restriction of reach. I mean, free speech is great, but if only 2 people can hear me.
Hi, everybody. Just a reminder that I have got a consultation service. If you're struggling with your health, you want to lose weight, you want to get improve your sleep, not be as tired as you are, get your libido back, lift your mood. I can help you with tangible steps to regain and reclaim your health. If you're facing a medical diagnosis and you're not sure about how to move forward, you've got unanswered questions, and you don't know how to approach your doctor at the next consultation, again, pick my brains. If you're facing surgery and again, you want a second opinion, I can help you with that. These are fantastic educational sessions that will empower you, and you just need to look at the reviews on my website to see how people have benefited from that. So visit my website, docmalik.com, and book a consultation if this resonates with you. Also, while you're at my website, make sure you check out the affiliate codes. I've got some products that my family and I use, and everything is highly recommended, whether it's the sea green micro nutrients and bioavailable iodine. Definitely would recommend that. And then there's Heracles Wellness, Sauna and Cold Plunge Company. And then there's Hunter and Gather, who have got fantastic foods. Remember, I don't have a sponsor. I'm supported by you guys and whatever I can make from subscriptions or the affiliate codes. Do check out these products. And then lastly, if you can leave a review, folks, or a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple, that'd be fantastic. It helps broaden the reach to new audience members and help spread the message, which I am trying to do, raise awareness, shine light on the darkness and the lies that are out there. Okay, folks, have a great Christmas. I'm going to be off air for about 2 weeks. I'm going to be digitally detoxing. I'm going to be locking my phone away for 2 weeks. So if you don't hear from me, that's why. And I'll see you in 2026, recharged, refreshed, and ready to take on the fight. All the best, folks. Bye-bye.
We can have free speech if nobody hears us, but when we got visible, when we got heard, then of course we are. This is what's happening on the broad scale.
I can tell you right now, I'm the exact same as you now. I don't spend that much time on X at all. Maybe once a day I'll post something, or retweet something. But despite having 217,000 followers, my average post only goes out to just a few hundred. It's clearly being shadow banned, and the reach is being restricted. So there might be 217,000, but there's not that many people actually seeing my posts or my videos. So it's like, why should I waste my energy and time on this? And hopefully then you get some engagement from this podcast or my Substack writings. But I think I'm definitely being restricted from all angles, and because I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I'm a pretty good podcaster, and it should have even.
You are the best I know, at least.
Oh, thanks. Maybe you don't.
I really love it. I really you found your destiny. You must have been a great orthopedic surgeon, but I guess it was a waste of your talent. You are the most talented podcaster I know, and it's really a joy to watch your podcasts. I think you found your destiny.
Oh, well, thank you. But I'm just saying, other people get promoted so much, and you just think, how are you getting all of this attention and going on other people's shows? And there's all this cross networking, and they all help each other out, and they're all on each other's shows, and they're all just mediocre. And you just think, well, that's suspect. That doesn't make sense whatsoever. So but I mean, what else can we do? We just have to keep plugging. And I know I do reach new people, because people say to me, oh, I've only recently started listening to you, and oh my goodness, it's amazing. I've just woken up to this. So I do get that feedback, which is great. But I think you're right. People like you and I are heavily shadow banned. They do not want the truth out, because the reality is everything these evil people do is based on lies. And the lie does not like scrutiny. It does not like the light being shone on it. It only flourishes in the darkness. It flourishes with the protection of the blanket of propaganda and censorship and brainwashing. And the moment the truth comes into play, well, that's like a bright light. It's like the sunshine. It destroys the bacteria. It just destroys the lie. And so they can't have it. They have to shut us off. It's as simple as that. The truth doesn't need propaganda. The truth doesn't need brainwashing. The truth doesn't need coercion. The truth is just the truth.
You see people who are promoted by the ruling system, ruling psychopaths, however, then you instantly know these are propagandists. These are propagandists, else they would not have millions of followers and earn millions of dollars in YouTube and all and this kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, interesting is on our side, for example. I mean, there were some guys who, from February 2020, explained the whole prevailing corona nonsense narrative. There was Sucharit Bhakti, Wolfgang Wodark, Lynn Finn, an American fellow doctor. But we were only a few, really. In February, March, we were only a few. And especially in Twitter, the German countries, it was interesting. The German we started a bit earlier, so I tweeted mostly in English because I realized that the Americans, British, and English-speaking people enjoy this information. Of those who came out early and are totally vindicated, as you already mentioned, none of those became really famous. And of course, and none of those got millions, got a lot of money. I always say, don't trust anybody, especially also not to me, of course. But if someone earns a lot of money with what he's doing, he certainly is not free. Certainly is not free in his expression. So if I don't get any money with this, I only lost money with my education. I had to pay lawyers and all that. Then you highly likely might be honest, an honest guy. But if you, for example, this wellness company, this is an utter joke. I somewhat like Peter McCullough, for example, but how can such a guy be one of the leading figures in this wellness company who sells stuff that is not proven to work, detoxification of the spike protein, while the main toxicity of these chaps probably comes from the autoimmune attack against the foreign protein expressing cells. There you can buy antibiotics for $299.99 that you are prepared for the next pandemic, while a pandemic of a killer virus is a biological impossibility. This, by the way, is something we have to tell the people.
Yeah, I just want to clarify because
of a killer cannot exist.
Yeah, I just want to clarify because your accent's quite strong. I just want to say, so you just said a pandemic of a killer virus is impossible. Can you please explain why that is scientifically impossible? Because this is important. Because your Bill Gates are going to be pushing it. Your Chris Whitty's, your Ian Valency's, all your public health bodies, the UN, the WHO, Tedros, they're all going to be saying the next pandemic, the next flu virus, the bird flu or whatever it is. So why is a pandemic of a killer virus scientifically impossible?
You're very kind. You said my accent is a bit special, but it's my Swiss English that is that, of course. Swinglish. Yeah, yeah. Well, I try to speak English, and maybe some people can understand a little bit of what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that's really. I think this is one of the most important things that people must know about all these germ things. Pandemic. I mean, if we talk about pandemic, we must first debate what we are talking about. What is a pandemic? And before 2009, everybody in the medical field, scientific field, and also the populace thought, a pandemic, this is the worldwide rapid spread of a new, highly dangerous germ. This was the definition of it before 2009. And almost nobody knows, at least nobody was told by the legacy media, that in 2009 the WHO changed the definition of the definition of a pandemic by taking out the dangerousness of the causative germ. And since then, you can call any cold or flu wave that's going around the globe a pandemic. And this most people do not know because, of course, with a pandemic, they have the association of tiles of bodies and, my God, 20-50% of humanity will die. And they did it so that in 2009, they could declare this H1N1 pandemic. as I mentioned earlier, H1N1 was less dangerous than the seasonal flu. And of course, they did it again in March 2020 when they declared this COVID pandemic of a cold virus that also is less dangerous than the seasonal flu. Well, you ask me, why is a pandemic in the true sense of the meaning? If in its true meaning, a worldwide spread of a killer virus, a biological impossibility. It's simple. I mean, has there ever been an Ebola pandemic? I think Ebola kills about 50% of infected population. No, it has always been a regional phenomenon. Why?
You're talking about Ebola.
Ebola.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Ebola.
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 That's a Swiss Ebola. Swiss. Okay. Ebola is produced in a Swiss lab, so it's Ebola. Okay. Well, if I am infected with a killer virus, a very dangerous virus, I get sick so rapidly so that I am in bed or even in a coffin before I can meet many people. So there are not many social contacts, and those are important for the spreading. So it cannot spread. But if I only have a sore throat because I am infected with a virus, then of course I travel to New York. I traveled around the globe and I spread it. So only a relatively harmless germ can spread globally in the way they want to make us believe. So as soon as they come up again with the pandemic of a killer virus, just instantly laugh them out of court and do not comply. Do not comply. It's a biological impossibility. Also, the second, third, fourth, fifth wave is utter nonsense. This also is a biological impossibility. After 3 weeks, after 3 months, such a virus went through through society. After 3 months, everybody is infected and was infected, thus immune, or is dead or died. And then you cannot be reinfected by it, but in the next year, those seasonal viruses come around again, a little bit mutated. So you might get a new cold because they mutate permanently, but they can never kill you, but you have a partial immunity, of course, against them. I mean, there were about 5 or so COVID waves. Huh? We do not call the influenza season the influenza waves. Huh? I mean, there is the influenza season 2020, 21, 22, and the same is with those corona cold viruses. They come again in the winter, and they are a little bit mutated, so we are only partially immune. So we might get a little bit of cough or a sore throat or so, but they are not dangerous.
Yeah, I remember some paper or text message or something, maybe Matt Hancock, I can't remember the details, where they said, oh, we should release the next wave. And it's like, what does that mean? How can you release it? Like, what does that even mean? I mean, some people listening to you might be getting very upset because there's no such thing as viruses. Thomas Binder is a gatekeeper for the evil people because he says that viruses exist. I mean, what do you think? What would you say to that? And then to the virus, no virus thing. And then what do you think COVID was? Like what? Because I'm still so confused. Like what was it? Like was it a lab-based thing? Was it some poison? Was it radiation? Was it just flu? What the frack was it?
I don't believe anything for sure now, really. So whether viruses exist or not, I'm not totally sure. But what I would say is that there must be a contagious agent in a submicroscopic level below the bacteria, smaller than bacteria. I mean, I was always amazed. I mean, bacteria we can see under microscope. We can let them grow on agar plates. We can add an antibiotic there and even see that they are killed by the antibiotic or not killed if they are resistant. And those antibiotics work. They work against bacteria. And I was always amazed that antivirals do not really work. Huh? I mean, Tamiflu. I mean, if you take Tamiflu, the influenza doesn't last 7 days, but 6 days and 23 hours or so, according to the studies they published. Those antivirals actually never really work. This amazed me some time ago already. Well, I think this whole debate about viruses, no viruses, this is not helpful at all. First and foremost, it divides us. It divides our movement. It reminds me on the plane debate about 9/11. There are the planers. They believe that really 4 planes flew around to hit the huge towers. And there are the non-planers that think, no, those 4 planes didn't really exist. It's computer graphics and so on and so forth.
Holograms,
and those,
yeah.
Yeah, but computer graphics, you see, and those 2 factions, they have waged war. They wage war. Why? I mean, this is insane. I mean, we must come together, state that the official narrative about 9/11 is utter nonsense. The official narrative about COVID is utter nonsense. And then we do not have to find out everything ourselves. We just must demand an investigation that deserves the name investigation. About 9/11, about climate change, about moon landing, about Ukraine war, about Israel, Palestine, about everything. This is enough. It divides us. So sometimes I also think this debate is somewhat done deliberately, just as I mentioned, to divide us, and it's not. And another aspect is, if I go to court, for example, and want to prove that those COVID transfections are dangerous, if I then come up with the theory that there is no virus, then of course the judges you already now think I'm insane. They only think I'm even more insane. So it's not helpful in any way, this debate. Once this narrative is resolved, once we solved all those problems around COVID, then we can debate about this. Of course, I'm ready to debate about everything, but currently it's not helpful at all, just the contrary. That's my
And what do you think COVID
take
was?
on this. It was mainly a testing pandemic. I think, well, already in March 2020, I stated in a tweet that PCR is the wrong test to check, to follow an epidemic or a pandemic, because of course it can never prove an infection. It only shows the presence of a certain amount of the genomic material of a germ. Of course, the higher this amount you find, the higher the probability that this agent infected you. But the PCR test alone, even if it's done properly, if it's a good PCR test, it can never prove an infection. And all those case numbers were based on these PCR results. Then, above all, it was the worst possible PCR test on COVID you could possibly imagine. Any biochemistry student can make a better one in a single day. It was very unspecific and it was hypersensitive, and it was run at cycles at up to 45 cycles. So there were many false positive tests. I think it was mainly a testing pandemic. As you said, when they wanted to create a new wave, they created a new testing wave. So again, everybody had to be tested. And then, of course, the case numbers go up. The more tests you do, the more cases, and mostly false positive cases you found. I mean,
asymptomatic spread. A lot of these people didn't even have symptoms. They're just positive. I agree.
Asymptomatic spread was another lie. I mean, of course, there is asymptomatic spread. I mean, if tomorrow I get COVID, I get the cold, the flu, or whatever, and I kiss my partner really intensively, maybe she might be infected by me. But the important thing in epidemiology is epidemiologically relevant asymptomatic spreading of a virus. And this does not exist for these respiratory viruses. If I meet you on the street and just talk to you and have no very close contact to you, I would not infect you. I would not infect you. It's the lie of this epidemiologically relevant asymptomatic spread. So they could say even seemingly healthy people can be your angel of death. be afraid of every human who crosses your way. He might be your angel of death. This was the narrative. So first there was the wrong test, and second there was this lie of epidemiologically relevant asymptomatic transmission. And as there is no epidemiologically relevant asymptomatic transmission, all those measures like social distancing, masks, school closures, etc., for healthy people could not work because they are not necessary for healthy people because there is no epidemiologically relevant asymptomatic spread. The only thing we can do if there is an epidemic of what else is to isolate the infected, the sick people. This we did for hundreds of years, and this works. But this is the only thing that works against the spread of a respiratory virus.
Okay. Are you seeing many cardiological problems from the vaccine?
I did. I think that the clotting, the myocardial infarctions, stroke, peripheral thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, disappear mostly in the first months or maybe years. What I still see is sometimes myocarditis, but also this has diminished mostly. What we see now is that the medium to long-term side effects, mainly cancer and autoimmune diseases. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, there are cancers in 30 years old. I guess I recently heard about a 13-year-old with pancreatic cancer. 13-year-old. I've never seen this. Or there are patients who have 3 cancers at the same time. I sometimes saw 2 cancers at the same time, but never 3. I mean, this is incredible, absolutely incredible. And it is interesting that the oncology registries do not exist. They stopped in 2021. They stopped. They are no longer published. And I guess in almost every country, they are not published. But for example, in Switzerland, we had the data from a health insurer, Helsana, and they published the data how many of their patients are on oncological drugs. So drugs against cancer. So from this you can think about how many patients have cancer. And this number almost doubled from 2021 to 22, I think. What happened there? I mean, yeah, and honest oncologists admit, yes, they see turbo cancer in younger patients, rapidly developing, spreading cancer. Many patients who were in remission for decades sometimes, and months after the third shot or so, the cancer came back.
I saw that with one of my patients. She was 12 years free of colon cancer, totally cleared, and then it came back, and she was dead within like a couple of months. I remember that very clearly. So, you know, and these terms, like there were these terms that suddenly just popped out of nowhere, like social distancing. There's nothing social about distancing, by the way. Or, you know, sudden death. Myocarditis was not something that was well known in, you know, normal public conversation. It was only doctors knew about myocarditis. Or, you know, turbo cancer. That's never been a diagnosis. Like what the hell is turbo cancer? And now suddenly all these things are just well recognized. Even things like Guillain-Barré syndrome. Like again, that was a very rare thing, and that, you know, now, you know, everybody knows Guillain-Barré syndrome. And or shingles. Shingles, again, extremely rare thing, and immunocompromised. Now everybody's getting shingles. There's adverts about shingles, and it's like, are doctors not even thinking, this is strange? Why are all these things that we learned in med school that were rare and wonderful conditions and textbooks now just normal, things that we just hear and see all the time? And it's like, what the heck's wrong with people? So that was just something I noticed, which I thought was just batshit crazy. But anyway, moving on. People who've had the shot. I mean, I don't believe in detoxing with spike detox or whatever garbage. I think the best thing to do is live as healthy as life as possible, stress-free as possible, fast as much as possible, do sauna as much as possible, exercise as much as possible, have love in your life and have purpose in your life, be in touch with nature, and your body will then detox and heal itself. I think that's the best thing to do. But Would you agree with that, or do you think there's other things that people can do if they've had the shot? Because I think if you've had the shot, I don't want to give this fear that, oh my God, you've had the 3 shots, you've had a booster, you're destined to die, and it's all. I think that's all. No, I don't believe that. I think we need to trust that the body is incredible, and we need to support it. What do you think?
Becomes more and more frightening that I again must agree with you. Rather, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, quite early after those jabs, I thought as a doctor, well, I do not want to panic the populace. I mean, it's the other side who panics. So we should not panic the vaccinated, the jab, transfected. We must give them hope. Hope, this is our duty. If you come to me, you have cancer, I say, oh, well, sorry, you have cancer, I cannot help you, forget it, you will die within a few months or so. This is not my duty as a doctor. I would say, oh, it's a serious condition. We can work together. Just let's fight this. There of course, if you come with a median survival, yeah, this median survival is maybe 6 months. That there is this cost distribution, and there is still the guy with your condition who is living in 10 years and so on and so forth. So I give you hope, and already in this pandemic, the doctors did not give hope to their patients. They frightened them. Take the jab. And then with the jabs now, of some of on our side also say, oh, well, you will die and millions and billions will die and all that stuff. We could not simply know. We knew from the start, before the start, it is life-threatening, but how many would be killed, we could never know, etc. So I posted a tweet some years ago. Look, I think jabbing is somewhat like smoking. It increases your risk for many, many diseases. Honestly, quite honestly, for all diseases. So just give it up. Give it up. No more jab. No other jab. As no more cigarette, just no more jab. And then, with time, as with smoking, over years, your risk comes back to normal. Live a healthy life. And if you live healthier than before, your risk might even be lower than 10 years ago in 10 years or so. This is what I told the people. Just stop it now. And above all, also, of course, I tell them not every jab obviously had the same ingredients. It didn't work all the same. No, I mean, we there, yeah. I think this is really important. We must give our patients hope. The other side is the ones. Is this the side that reliefs from making the people panic, so to be under their control?
Definitely. You know, you're in Switzerland, and that's a home to a lot of the evil, in the sense that you got the WHO
Absolutely.
there, you got the UN there, you got all the globalists there, the WEF there, you got the bankers there, you've got, I think, BIS there, you've got all the rich billionaires. In some respects, I don't think they're going to ruin Switzerland, because that's their playground, that's their home. You're going to be protected, aren't you? The rest of Europe is going to go to shit. It's going to fall apart. The infrastructure's crumbling. It's in debt. So you're quite lucky in that respect that you're in Switzerland. What other things can you see? Do you see the other agendas? Can you see the technocracy, the totalitarianism, the digital currency, and all this other stuff that's happening? Can you see that, though? That this is what's happening? This is the agenda?
You're right again. Of course, we are all global evil organizations are located in Switzerland. Yeah, this is true. And yes, and I also agree that this might be a reason why in Switzerland life is a bit better than in most countries. Although we usually do the same insanities as everybody else, but with a little delay and a little bit softer. Huh? But yeah, I think, I mean, for the same reason, I think, for example, Sweden was not hit so hard with the measures against COVID. They were really advanced in the globalist agenda, and I think so that the regisseurs, the masters of the play, allowed them to be a little bit softer with their people because they were so kind and so obedient. Yeah, I think that was the reason why Sweden could have a little bit less hard measures. There was from top they got the allowance to be less restrictive. But in Switzerland, we have some element of direct democracy. So if the government, if a new law comes up, we can collect 50,000 signatures, and then we can have a referendum. And we can also start an initiative. So we, for ourselves, I could start an initiative. I want that this whole COVID pandemic is openly debated and covered by the public broadcaster. I must collect 100,000 signatures for this. And of course, with this, we can somewhat slow the agenda. But just recently, we had a referendum about the electronic ID, digital ID. Some years ago, we could already vote about it, and 2/3 of the Swiss rejected it. Some years ago, 2/3. So they came up with another one with it, telling that the last time the people did reject it because this digital ID would have made by private organizations, would be issued by private organizations, not by the state. So the people do not trust in the private organizations; they trust more in the state. So they came up with a new thing, with a new law, where this is done by the state. And it was about 50.3 to 49.7% said yes to this time. And of course, as I mentioned before, totally disinformed people voted because there was no real debate. I mean, it was a little bit covered by the public broadcasters, but most medias, of course, supported it. And now we voted to get an electronic ID. So this is part, of course, of the Agenda 2030, One Health, and the Great Reset. Of course, they say as well here in Switzerland, it's voluntarily. It's not mandatory. But we will see. We will see how it goes on. It will look like this. Yeah, suddenly this you can no longer have to move without it, and this, the kind of boiling frog procedure. And at the end, everybody has it, because once you can no longer buy food, when you can no longer buy food, probably even I would have ID. But it goes a little bit slower than in the rest of the world or in most countries. But we follow the agenda as well, of course. And in COVID, we did all the same insanities. A fellow doctor, a fellow student of me even, is Bundesrat. That's one of the 7 ministers in Switzerland. Imagine that. Our government is a bit special. It consists of 7 ministers, and every year in a rotation, one of those 7 is the Bundespräsident, the primus inter pares, the president of Switzerland. In this government, we had a doctor, and this doctor was his foreign minister. So now this COVID pandemic comes around. Allegedly, the biggest catastrophe for Switzerland since the last World War. For the first time, the Swiss army mobilized since the last World War to help in hospitals and so on. And in reality, they did nothing. They had no work to do. What would I do if I would be in part of the government? I would say when the government comes together at the first day in the pandemic, I would say, hey, now you doctor, you become health minister. But who was health minister and who remained the health minister during this pandemic? A political scientist called Alain Berset, a political scientist. And the doctor are in the government, and the political scientist is health minister, and the doctor is foreign minister. Even in this medical emergency, I mean, this alone tells almost everything. I mean, they knew exactly what was going on. Else, that this would be the reflex of any healthy person. that they switch their ministries, and a political scientist is born to be a foreign minister, to shake hands with all those celebrities. But yeah, we didn't hear a word of my fellow student, fellow doctor Ignacio Gassis during the whole pandemic. Strange, very strange.
Very, very strange. And what about the people in Switzerland? Are they?
And can you understand my English? Is it okay?
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. No, I'm being serious. And what do you think about, like, most Swiss people? Are they very, like, they're rich, wealthy, comfortable? You probably don't have a mass migrant. You don't have a mass migrant crisis. The streets are probably very clean. Are they fast asleep, or do they see the global agenda that's happening?
Most Swiss are as asleep as almost everybody. I mean, highly likely, sometimes even more, because, well, just in our Switzerland, in our Heidi land, full paradise, most people cannot even imagine that the government is waging war against them. In each and every country of this planet, during the COVID crisis, the government was waging war first and foremost against its own populace. Ah, an ordinary Swiss cannot even imagine this. This is impossible. Those are my fathers and mothers in the government. They're caring for me like for a small little child. I can totally trust them. So most Swiss cannot even have the idea that their government would not work in their interest, but in the interest of others.
This is the number one problem I realized. I've gone from conservative to libertarian to full-blown anarchist now. I realized that the government is the enemy of the people. It's simple as that. And going back to Sweden, I had this guest on my show, Felix Juice, he's Swedish, talking about Sweden. He said the problem is the Swedes love the government. They didn't need any laws there. They just said, oh, yes, we love you. Please give us the jab. Please implant the digital ID inside our body. Please, yes, master, whatever you tell us. Please give us more tax us more. They are so subservient in their mindset. They didn't need any draconian rules and laws. They were lining up like sheep to be slaughtered, and they were happy to be slaughtered. That's the way the Swedish mentality is, apparently. And this guy was telling me,
Sweden and Switzerland are very similar. We both think we are living in the best country of this planet, on this planet. Huh? That's it. That's it. The higher problem is also sometimes I can explain this COVID nonsense narrative to someone, and then after an hour he says, yeah, well, yeah, it sounds reasonable. I cannot believe that such evil people do exist. This is the usual answer I get. Most people cannot only believe that the government, their own government, is waging war against them, but that such evil people who are doing such evil things really do exist. They probably think after Hitler, Mao, Stalin, etc., those guys died out. They are still around us, often as multi-billionaires. They are psychopaths. Well, then if I'm talking about psychopaths, people come, no, they're sociopaths. We should not debate about this, so I prefer the term severe malignant narcissists. And this closes the circle again. Severe malignant narcissists flourish, of course, in the current age of narcissism. You must not be good. You must not be brave. You have not to be brave. You have not to be empathetic. You have not to be good. You must sell. You must be a good salesman of yourself. You must seem to be good, brave. This is important.
yeah, absolutely. Everything is an inversion, Thomas. I was watching this clip of a British rabbi, I think chief rabbi or something, and he was saying hateful speech cannot be tolerated. You know, incitement for hatred cannot be tolerated. This has to be punished or whatever. I don't know what the hell. And I was just thinking, so if someone is trying to defend the Palestinian people and expose the genocide and the murder of hundreds of thousands of innocent people, children and women and men, for no reason whatsoever other than colonialism and land grab and ethnic cleansing. Simply speaking out and saying this is wrong, that's hateful speech. So the act in itself, the act of murder and genocide, that's okay. Let's not talk about that. But speaking against it is hateful and anti-Semitic. And that needs to be censored and punished, and these people need to locked away. I mean, it's a complete inversion. I mean, reality has gone upside down. It's just, the world is madness. Good is bad, bad is good. Men are women, women are men. Everything is inverted.
It's exactly how psychopaths work. They simply turn everything upside down. They project, for example. If I do something wrong, I accuse you of doing exactly the wrong I am doing. This is the attack. This is projection by C.G. Jung. And they turn everything upside down. I found this out before COVID, and I tweeted about this already then. I mean, we are told, look, the world is incredibly complicated. You cannot possibly understand it. It's so complicated, you must trust the experts. No, in reality, it's extremely simple. All problems, all big problems are just created by the psychopaths who at the same time offer us the solution for those problems. This is how they work, and this explains everything. Once you have realized that in the apex of the age of narcissism, which is now, almost most power positions are occupied by severe malignant narcissists. You understand the total global insanity, global madness. And below them, there are the narcissistic village idiots. Look, for example, at all those politicians. I always state that ignorance and arrogance and power make a combustive mixture that someday had to blow up in our faces. And this is what we find now. Look, the politicians. Most politicians are not psychopaths, usually the level above, but there are some, of course. Most are just not village idiots. They do not have any idea what they are talking about, but at the same time, they think they are the greatest. They are fantastic, wonderful. And then those guys become get power. This must have ended in a disaster. This must have ended in a disaster. We live in so many virtual realities. We cannot live in virtual realities because one day we will crash against the wall of reality, and this might be the end of humanity. I mean, even nuclear war or so. They are so insane. When I was young, nobody even thought that the nuclear war might be possible. Now they openly debate about the possibility of waging nuclear war and all this. They're totally insane. These are insane people who must, they put, of course, the guys who themselves should be in the loony bin. It explains everything. The psychopaths turn everything topsy-turvy. You can watch TV, you can read the newspaper, but do it in standing on your head. Then just take off everything the opposite, and then you are right. You are informed. You are very well informed.
Absolutely. And I think even like that layer of politicians you said, the useful village idiot, the narcissist that's not that bright, there's freedom medical doctors and freedom medical people in that group as well, the anti-COVID dissidents. You know, some people say controlled opposition. I think they're just useful idiots there as well. Self-promoting narcissists. I've seen so many. I've come across so many. It's been quite disappointing. I'll be honest with you, Thomas. It's been very disappointing.
I agree once again.
Yeah. Don't know what else to say. I mean, because, you know, orthopedic surgeons are very competitive type A personalities. I thought my peers were a difficult bunch of people, but coming out of that world into this world, my eyes have really opened up.
Still, I think surgeons or, for example, cardiologists, I mean, doctors who do interventions, who physical interventions, there are a little bit more, the amount of informed doctors is a little bit higher, because if you do an operation, it works or it fails. You cannot debate now, well, this limb, I have to amputate the limb now because, sorry. Or if I do a PCI of a coronary artery, I do a service to the patient, or maybe I kill him. There is no debate. If he dies during an intervention, it was bad luck or my mistake, and we have to find out what it was. But we cannot debate that nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. That limb just died, and the patient just died. Yeah. So the so-called ordinary people. I have the highest respect from the so-called ordinary people because these are more rooted in reality. Or of the farmers, for example. A farmer, his stuff grows or it does not grow. You cannot tell him, "Oh, wonderful, your plants are wonderful," if nothing is there, of course. So there are people who also in the profession must live more in the reality than others. If I do not live in the reality as a doctor, it's becoming dangerous. And maybe. But of course, most cardiologists also went with the narrative, most surgeons as well. But I think there is a little difference to for example, infectiologists, of course, who were the worst. Infectiologists, I mean, I think this was probably the same in England. In Switzerland, it was like this. In each and every hospital, the infectiologists took the lead. Right? They became the masters of the whole hospital. And honestly, I mean, infectiology before HIV was almost not existent.
You're talking about,
and if
HIV, you're talking about infectious disease people.
Infectious, we call them infectiologists, infectious disease people. So doctors specialized on infections, on treating infections, diagnosing and treating infections. This field exploded with HIV, and there was a lot of money around for those. And honestly, I mean, in the hospital, sometimes I thought, now I have a patient with an infection. There is also the infectiologist. Yeah, well, maybe I can ask him for a consultation. Then I get before I give a broad spectrum amoxicillin, for example. And then I get a 3-page report and blah, 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 blah. And at the end is written, I would give amoxicillin. Okay. Yeah, this was what they were doing. So a little bit, we laughed at them, but that's not very kind. But they were not the most famous doctors. As a cardiologist or a surgeon, cardiac surgeon, you can become more like a star. And now suddenly, those doctors, a little bit low in the hierarchy, became the masters of the hospital. This was also very well planned. This is just human. They enjoy it now. Finally, I prepare my whole life for a pandemic. Finally, it is here, and I can show all my knowledge. And they appeared in all newspapers, infectiologists, on TV, radio, always the same handful of infectiologists took the lead in a whole country. Yeah, I think it was very well planned. They knew this would happen.
Yeah,
can you understand what I mean? Can you follow? Can you agree to this a little bit?
100%.
I like infectiology. It might have come.
No. Listen.
Told it a little bit too harsh, but I think it goes in this direction.
I think you're 100% right. The power got to their heads. People love getting power. Right, listen, final question of the day, and I need to wrap up, my friend, and thank you so much for your time. You're on your deathbed, you're surrounded by your loved ones. Before you pass on and meet your maker, what words of wisdom and advice would you give to your loved ones?
Always stick to reality, or that could also be called the truth.
Nice. Thank you, my friend.
Be empathetic. Love your family, love everybody, be an empathetic person. This as well, of course. And maybe if I can add this, I mean, I probably will not live when this all the COVID nonsense is really debated publicly. There is a real debate. But I'm not afraid of dying, and I'm quite sure that it will help me that once the day comes that I have to leave, I know I was on the right side.
Beautiful.
And you as well, my friend. And you as well. I love you, brother.
I love you too. Everything you just said, like, I'm not scared of dying. And I believe that my spirit lives for eternity. I'm a beautiful spiritual being that lives for eternity. I'm here because this whole existence, this whole simulation or whatever it is a test where we prove and test our spirit and our soul. And you know what? I know when I leave, I got the bonus points. I'm gonna be just fine. I'm gonna be proud of this level. I'm gonna come out and everybody's gonna be like, "Well done, man! You aced that level." When a lot of people, it'll be like, "You go back, do it again." Yeah, don't fear death. Thank you, Thomas, so much.
In London or Switzerland or finally in heaven.
It'll happen. No, we'll meet in person for sure. I, Ahmed Malik, am a private civilian protected by the Geneva Convention. My Substack, social media posts and podcasts are my personal experiences, observations and opinions. This information is for educational purposes only. Although I am a doctor, I am not your doctor and I am not providing medical or legal advice to you or to the wider public. I am not licensed or registered with the GMC or any other licensing board. The responsibility for the interpretation, due diligence and use of the information from my Substack and my podcast lies with you, the viewer and or listener. Please do your research and use your discernment. It is not my intention to harass, intimidate, offend, defame, conspire, blackmail, coerce, or cause anxiety, alarm or distress to any man or woman, and the information presented here is done so with peaceful and honourable intentions. Enjoy, folks.